Cool. So we're on, Krish, and an absolute honour to have you on, mate. Obviously, we met fairly recently at one of Paul Mort's events at Villa Park. So shout out to Paul for putting that on. And as I've mentioned to you when I was nagging you to get on the podcast, it's the first episode, and it's one of those. Been meaning to do a podcast for years, and yeah, you don't want to do something just the same as other people sometimes, and yeah, get the same guests on. So thank you to you, because you really inspired me to actually get started and get this done, mate. So massive honour to have you here. Massive honour to share some time with you from a selfish perspective and ask some one-on-one questions. And obviously there's a lot of ground to cover, no doubt. So from growing up in the foothills of the Himalayas to obviously getting into the Ghurkas, which isn't a mean feat by itself, but then going on to join the Special Forces, to all of your expeditions and mountain climbing and summiting Everest. There's loads to cover. However, I want to start with one of my favourite questions to get stuck straight into it. And that is around success, which is a word that can mean many different things to different people. And I think we all strive for success in one way or another. So yeah, what does success mean to you, Krish?
First of all, thank you, and I'm very honored to be part of this great, inspiring, and thank you, Rich, having me and giving me opportunity. Yeah, what is success? I think to me is being alive. Being alive is possibly for me is the success, and then aware of our liveliness and who we are, and that's probably the biggest success in my life. And that awareness, being alive, and conscious thought allow myself to perceive the world I want it, and give me the opportunity to understand more myself and the rest of the world. Yes, so be grateful and be honor and be resonance in my feeling and in my life when I'm actually live. I think that's probably the biggest success for me. Thank you.
Amazing. Yeah, so many questions to ask just off the back of that, and I'm sure we'll cover some ways that potentially make you feel alive along the way as well. So yeah, thank you so much for joining. Let's start with the early life. So growing up in the foothills of the Himalayas, how do you feel that environment shaped you and you as a person, and what followed after that?
Yes, thank you, Rich. I think it's a great question. For me, it's just realized a few years back, the culture, the society, and the so we call house or the home, where we can reset and reconnect and understanding ourselves through the environment or the conditional and society. I grown up in Himalayas, probably the biggest gift. We often forget that our past, and without past there is no present, and without present there is no future. And having said that, I think the culture and society, the Buddhism philosophy, and the Hinduism, kind of understanding of grown up in the foothills of Himal, in Nepal, but it's Himalayas, yes. So that will give the profound understanding of life. And when we look back, my 4 years old Krish walking in the mountain and reconnect, and realization gave me the opportunity. Actually, everything the culture and society in Himalayas try to teach us, about life, being alive, connect with the society, connect with the nature. And also, other thing I really realize is the as much as I grown up and like Himalayan culture and society and traditional, but also my grandfathers were the Gurkhas, for 100 years from Second World Wars to it start from 1812 when the British invade India and they start, coming through the Asia. And then I think the important thing, my realization is whatever culture and society or environment, it obviously condition us, our thought process. But however, I think it is even more important what is in our blood, what is actually our energy focus on. And I always realize, like I say, before even I born, my parents had a dream, me joining the Gurkhas. And when I look back, my great grandfathers were the Gurkhas. And the way I see my life and realization is uh, the culture and society and the traditional. I grown up in Eastern philosophy, but my blood was a warrior. My blood was to fight, to stand up, and to represent. There's a very corrupted world. If, even in the Western world, London, a lot of people talk about the what is masculinity and what is feminine energy. But I think as a human being over the 1,000 years of evolution, I think it is very important for us as a man to understand our bloodline, our connects with the ancestor. And we often forget that, and we suffer, isn't it? We suffer because we almost forget who we are and what we meant to be, how we evolve biologically and genetically as a man. I think this need to be that's what my going back to your first question, being success is actually being aware, our bloodline, and to regenerate and engage with our so much biological clock in a way to. And then of course there is different way, different way. Sometimes we have to wake up, and sometimes we have to hit the gym, sometimes we have to work hard, not only physically. Then how can we connect with emotionally and energy as well, shifting the like the who we are as a in a living creature in this world. I think this is my understanding of my life Himalayas. I think that helped me to connect and understand.
How do we go about that? So the topic of, I suppose you mentioned there briefly, the roles of masculine energy and feminine energy in today's society. It's a topic that comes up quite a lot today. And from what you've said there in terms of reconnecting with your bloodline and you believe in regards to you were born to be a warrior as well. And we'll get onto some of the more external stuff, but it reminded me of a note I took when at the Villa Park event. And potentially you didn't say it. It might have been my interpretation of something that you said when looking back at my notes. And it was along the lines of, the more we detach from our external identity and the more we attach or understand our internal identity, the more we will be at peace. And that was one of my notes. So hopefully that resonates, and I interpreted some of the stories that you were telling in the right way, Krish. But how would you, particularly for some of us guys living in and growing up in the Western world, what advice and how would you go about the process of reconnecting with your bloodline and understanding that more internal identity?
So what it is the if we have to look it in a physical aspect, and the psychological aspect, and the spiritual or the energy aspect. So there is a distinct difference between who we are, and uh, we often connect ourselves with the physical aspect and the mental aspect, and that's what the problem lays within us. But also a very, when you go deeper and deeper, mind, or the like we call man and mantra in Nepalese, those are forever. Those are internal for until the universe energy outside. So that is what I mean is connection, is that the energy level. We can't not be human without connect. So if we look at, for example, when the kids born, young kids born, the minute it born, like come out from the then he start crying. And if you give anything in his or her mouth, we don't have to teach them where to eat, how to breathe, how to see, how to hear. Those are the real, energy, or real, internalization come from outside. So the more we connect with that, and how can we detach our physical pleasure, physical, identity, and also goes to the mental identity. That's where we need to understand and detach ourselves, who we are as identify, and how can we have a deeper understanding of the spirituality or the cosmos. And so we call it's hard because in the Nepalese there is a four different distincts for the mind, like identity, ego, knowledge, and the memories. But these are the things which we always connect and attach with the what we think we are. So that's where we have to find and detach from those mind, but as energy, who we are. And that's where the reincarnation of the piece from the Buddhist philosophy or Eastern philosophy comes. The mind itself is never gonna change. It is forever here and forever will be. So that's where the understanding of my saying that the connect of who we are with the past is the energy, not who we are as a body, mind, knowledge, memory, and identity.
There's a lot to take in from that, and again, a lot of questions to delve into. I think my first one would be living in the Western world. So you've been in the UK, or based from the UK, since you joined the Special Forces. Am I right in saying that? 20 or so years?
Yeah, it's almost 30 years now. Yeah.
So in terms of living in the UK, or being based from here and being around the culture nowadays of and seeing social media and everything that pulls us away or is there to pull us away from our internal identity, how do we go about integrating some of the more, I suppose, Eastern principles, ancient wisdom, Buddhism, mindfulness, when we live in the world that we live in today? Would you have any advice around that? And how do you manage that? Because you're also in that situation.
Yeah. Yes, I think that's a great question, Rich. For me, is that's why it comes to the meditation part. That's why it comes to the realization part, and every day and every morning and every evening, internalization or the so basically how it worked for me is let's say you have got one thought coming in our mind, and some often, let's say, there is a negative thought, or there is something I don't like it. So for example, let's say I'm driving a car and I don't like that car. The first principle you do is the try to detach with the car. Let's say, and okay, I'm not gonna drive this car, or I'm not gonna drive this one. So you detach out yourself, and you never kind of slowly detach. But sometimes that's not easy. Then sometimes you try to detach physically, but mentally, whatever car or the subject or object is always annoying us in our mind. Then, in this case, what we have to do is it's called the joyful emotion. So we have to focus on, okay, I tried to ditch the car, I forget and sold the car or give it to someone, but it's still in my mind. Now, my energy has to focus on, okay, what is the good part of that car? I can't focus on the like, oh, I didn't like that, I didn't like the color, I didn't like the brand. So you are focusing on the negative side. Then you say like, okay, this is, I can't detach. So I'm now, oh, at least this car was helpful for me. I could have drive there. I had the good memories, some of the good memories with the car, or anything subject, or this could be a person, isn't it? This could be the situation. It could be anything, just for example. And after that, you focus on the positive side of car. Here is the ironic, here is the good part is, it's not you focusing on the good part. You try to focus on the good part or positive vibe. The trick is when we focus on the good part or goodwill, you will neglect and you detach with the negative energy. Yeah. So that is where the actually trick is. So once you start focusing on the good part, so you at least be a good memory, you start energizing the good, generating the good energy within us. Sometimes still hard, but then still you are not detached because you are still part of the things, subject or object. Then, if that's the case, then you are still not getting where is that the person, love, emotion, depression, anxiety, whatever it is, still can't get away. Now, the third routine, what I normally focus is, so we call the wisdom, or the like faith, or the love, anything. So what you do is, now once you try to detach first thing, not happen, you try to focus on the positive thing, but you still be a part of that mentally and psychologically. Now how can I? So the third part, what I call is again wisdom, faith, or hope, whatever we call, something beyond ourselves. So for that, you have to looking to your consequences. For example, if I still can't focus on few months or even sometime years with the positive part, and still you can't get rid of, you can't detach completely, then you go to write what happened if I thinking about the same way. If I thinking of the positive or negative or whatever subject or person, you keep thinking, you change, and when you're thinking that process, then you monitor your breathing pattern. Yeah, you monitor your emotion. Where are the emotion? If you are keep doing this one, then eventually some might people maybe 1 week, or some might be 1 month. Eventually you start feeling with that thought some sort of movement in your body, some sort of jerk, or some sort of subtle, or some pain you start feeling in whatever it is. Then once you going looking at your breathing pattern and your emotion pattern, then what happened to your thought pattern? Once you start monitoring that, then you start looking at outcome. Your body has a different outcome with that attachment or detachment, whatever subject or object. Once you're going deep down, this is what actually is a meditation. This is what actually, actualization. You sitting down, look at your thought, emotion. This is actually meditation. So once you start doing this one, and once you physically and emotionally and psychologically have some feeling, then it's very easy to switch for emotional detachment or attachment. So, and with that, sometimes we have to have, follow the sort of mantra, or sometimes we have to follow the faith, something, because you're going beyond your sense perception. It's something we can hear. It's not you can hear, you can't touch, feel. That's where the hope, faith, and things coming in. And in you have something believe. We have something driven, or you have something more than physical and energy. That's where it come. You might even go to the human being alive is a blood, so that's something really, really connect beyond ourselves, and that will allow us to be, help whatever problem I'm suffering. So those are the three way of like routine and practice we can do. And even for me, that helped me so much, because sometimes it's very easy to say in a surface level, oh, you don't like her, or oh, this is my thought, oh, just detach. It's not gonna work. So look at, okay, second thing, I'm gonna try to focus on the positive side. Okay, still not going, I'm still got now something. Let's do the proper meditation then. Sit down, look at your emotion, look at your thought process, look at how you feeling change. Once you, with that thought process, once you realize this and something change within yourself, then it's very, very tangible for us to reference and forgive and forget, or foresee ourselves for the future.
So we're talking about, I think the example we used there was a car, for instance, and there's a lot of examples that we can go into in terms of all of your external achievements, and I'd love to find out how. And I wanted to get to the core straight away, maybe from a selfish perspective, and I'm sure some people listening want to know a little bit more about your achievements and experiences, but I wanted to cover that first because I think I'd assume that a lot of that is fundamental in terms of a lot of your experiences and achievements along the way as well. So in regards to your time in the Special Forces and serving on the front line, maybe, some people listening, it's like, we've got someone here who's a Buddhist monk, and potentially they wouldn't associate that with someone fighting on the front line in Afghan and Iraq, for instance. But how did your experiences in the Special Forces and potentially on the front line further impact your perspective on life and adversity? And potentially some examples along the way would be amazing.
Yeah, no, thank you. I think it's a very profound question, and actually, this is where my life of realization and spirituality started in my life. Is obviously in the wartime in Iraq, and so I think one of the example I will pass it here is in 0304, and when I just very young, SF operator, and I've been tasked to monitor and establish the foreign special force unit. And the biggest problem, or the factor, was the like trust. I think trust, because we were in a foreign land, and we were in their territories, and we often forget like the how big a role the place. The one of the very interesting thing is every place have the energy, and all the time has the memory. So when we were training the foreign force to establish their kind of physical, mental, and equipment, and all this, everything, weapon, shooting, the biggest problem was how can we trust ourselves operating in someone else's country with their team, and we are only four of us, and then they were like, about 40 of them. We trained them, so 40 of them versus four of us on their land, and with the like kit and equipment, and the in the weapons and ammunition, everything. So when that comes time in, then we have to dig down. Actually, whatever way we training in the outer wall actually come down to believe and trust ourselves. So one on that training, when we look at the training perspective again, I think we looking at the self. How can why how can I trust myself to put it normally in front of the third world country special forces? And second one is, what is the problem, or what is the subject or object we are battling with? For example, this time is the foreign national special forces, and us and them going on the ground with the live ammunition and weapon and trusting them. And third one is the truth. For example, we can't change because we can't change because we are in their country. We can't change their land. We can't change the time. So these are the ever external or the spiritual part. So understanding that three, self, subject or object, and actually the energy self outside. So once we put in that three perspective, then we said, right, we can then we have to, because trust is so big when it comes to life and death. When it's okay when we sing, oh, can you trust me, can you give me the 5 quid, can you give me the, like, can you buy a cup of coffee? That's a different level of trust. But when your life is in front line, when we talking about life and death, every breathing, every moment is so important. And that's why we said, then we can't trust our life just like this one. So then what we done is, the way we built up between the special force and ourselves is that for example, we gave them the opportunity, come and eat with us, and by only allowing ourselves, then they allow us going to eating, and eating in their cookhouse, and by doing that slowly, we building our trust. And then second thing, and we went to the range, firing together, and then walking together and laugh together, and then see, everything has to, we can't, that's why we have to find the way of, with the moment, with involving not only physical, but how can we involve with their psychological, with their day-to-day life, and trust, and start building, eating together, playing together, then going and firing the weapon together. Then what we call is the dry shooting. That means we still go through the practice, not only day, only night as well. So we do the day and night. The trust and thought process come only for the daytime, and nighttime is completely different. Our whole human evolution and energy and trust come once you start have a trust in the nighttime, because in nighttime often our sensation, our survival part will be in different mode. But that's come to the another part of a human energy and trust. When we start working and collaborating with the day and night shift, and that will allow, in subconscious mind, it's okay to work with you. It's okay to go on shooting, rifles and GPMG in the daytime. So we start building up incrementally, psychological, emotion, and physical level. And by doing that, and the trust and the putting in a different level of slowly, so we start building. And now, after 14 years, and I think they're actually saving their country. We leave the country, we come back, but we started like 20 years ago, and they are the now building bullocks, building and defense for the whole country. I think what that means is, if we have whatever mission and whatever the struggling, either in operation or our normal life, if we put in a different three different box, and ourselves and situation, subject or object, and what is the real thing we can't change, and how can we build the block ourselves and the subject or object, by only understanding that we shall reach the universal truth or mission or the vision we have one day.
So many insights again. And I suppose just digging a little bit deeper there, in terms of, we're in these situations, whether it sounds as extreme as fighting on the front line or scaling to the summit of Everest, for instance. We've got ourselves.
Yeah.
We've got the external object. And then obviously with the third point, in terms of what you're saying, at that point, there's these decisions to be made. And this is something that I'm keen to explore more, is how do you go about making those decisions in those critical moments? Because we all face them, whether it's, some of them might seem small to other people, but in our minds it might be absolutely huge to us, so potentially just as important. What process would you go through in those situations where that decision is ultimately life and death a lot of the time? What goes on in those moments?
Oh, yeah, I think it's a very deep question, and a great question, in fact. So, the process, in my mind, even a lot of, ourselves in the wartime, is what we call is the attack mindset. Yeah. So, it's like, we can only plan, we can only see and hear and touch and feel until the last moment, but we can't survive like that every day to day. Of course, we have to go through the process. Of course, we have to understand the situation, what is the thing, when you have a time. But when there is time, then that's what we often call attack mindset. That means you, where is that point, isn't it? Where is that point of tilt between the survival and death? Where is the point of love and emotion? Where is the point of understanding self and each and other, who we are? I think it is the best thing is that, for me, is more we can put it into the different level or different understanding. Obviously, this comes with experience, isn't it? Whatever you do, your personal life, you trainer or the physical instructor, or mental health, because we can only become conditioned and good at whatever we put our energy in it. Not necessarily physical and emotional, but energy. So what that energy you focus and pure on the certain time, and we need time on that. I think time is the biggest healer. So what that means is, when going back to the attack mindset, we often we put it in like the what we call is the two. Normally, when we go for the operation decision, we put onto the two different categories before we even go to the actually war or the front line. One is called, what we call is the normal situation. So that normal mean for us is we go there normal kind of mind and normal mindset, but with the full gear and equipment. But once we already look through the situation and process, then we already say, okay, it's gonna be heightened. or the number 2. Then the word we're going to say is number 1, so that we go there is as a normal, but as a normal for us is we go as a full gear, kit and equipment, ready to fight. But when we go say number 2, that means our mindset is right. We're going to get it. We're going to go for a different mindset, or we're going to go for the, like really, really top. And it's going to be, we already prepare your mind, body, and energy. We're going to hit harder. We're going to go in a different attack mindset. So that means sometime when you come, right, what's the situation today? It's number 1. So we just go, okay, we will go there with the full alert mindset, but not necessarily in a killing mode, or not in necessarily attack mode. But when you say number 2, then okay, you can go to a lot more drills, like, oh, if you go to number 2, what kind of body I'm gonna wear, what kind of t-shirt I'm gonna wear, am my shoes are they flexible enough, basic things, but which come obviously like you do, whatever you do your day-to-day life. Okay, today I'm gonna go run, so that means you just wear the normal short and pretty shoes, but or the like you're gonna wear the red or the bright t-shirt, whatever. But when you say road night, I'm gonna go and do the proper hardship crawling, or belly underneath the wire, then you have to wear the helmets, you have to wear the eye protection, you have to wear the gloves, it just, but it saves us the save us the time and explanation. Is the discipline and like the mindset. So when you go to number 2, that means we are straight going for right. If something gonna happen, it's gonna have a bad, so we're gonna go. So that is the mode you can actually switch, and with the habit and with the practice and discipline, and we often test our self-speed, like when you are sitting around and like our commander will come out like number 1, so that we have to know exactly, where is our boots, where is our weapon, all the time our weapon and mission essential things has to be within the arm reach, and if it is number 1 sometime, and if it is number 2, then commander might come like today we potentially have a number 2. That means you are actually on it. You have the gear pretty much with you, not in arm's length. Those are the drill, those are the practice, those are the habit we can build. And it's not going to happen overnight. We can build up. But what that does is, without saying a word, without we don't need to, I don't need to know you, I don't need to know who is coming with me, I don't need to know who is behind me or who is not behind me. The minute you say number 2, then you know exactly what's going on everyone's mind. You know exactly what gear and kit and equipment they're carrying. These are come with the training and discipline and motivation, and because we are dealing with a life and death situation. That's what it is very important for us to have, like whatever in the day-to-day life as well, to have that mindset. This is the only way. Sometime there is no time for thought, there is no time for, oh, I got this, I got that. You wake up, right, I'm on it, I'm gonna do it. There is no consequence. The consequence is something you deal with later, but not now, not today, not with me now. I think that's what the attack mindset does.
I love that. And yeah, as you know, a lot of my audience and network and clients are business owners, so we're all scaling mountains one way or another, whether that's Everest or internal mountains that we're climbing at times. And a lot of what you've said there, another keynote that I took away from last time I heard you speak was, and again, these might not be your exact words, so forgive me for that, it might have been my interpretation of them, but do the things that you don't need to do, and the things that you do need to do will come a lot easier, I believe, was one of my key takeaways. And I think a lot of what you've said there is kind of going a little bit deeper on that as well. In terms of building up that trust in yourself, which some people would brand as confidence, maybe. You've mentioned quite a lot there about experience and evidence, and I think that's a key part to pushing yourself further. How do we go about that when choosing our allies and team members? The recent example of, was it Harry, the double above the knee amputee that obviously you led the mission up Everest with, which is obviously unbelievable. In those type of scenarios, obviously you want the right people with you, and I think Harry had made a good choice choosing you. How would you go about choosing teammates or judging people who you want on those particularly tough journeys that, yeah, you'd like in your corner for when the going does get tough?
Yeah, I think it is, for me, is team is maybe important than who we are. And, and also the next thing when building the team is, like you said before, we often forget how important to have a mentor, how important to have the guidance. And because we often like the word you said, we often like to be in comfortable mode, isn't it? Oh, it is easy for me and I don't want to do this one because it's not comfortable. And then, but where is the line, like I'm okay, but it's maybe too much, too little. I think hence that's the time we need a good mentor. We need the good teamwork, they can push you, but with the limitation, if we, and for me is I've been fortunate and I've been honored to serve with the best people, the all the British SAS, and who been my mentor in my life. And I actually happy to give my name. My one of my best mentors still a guy called Jim Clark, and Mark, and Marka. Those are guys. When I even talk about it, I start crying. My eyes are all the time. Have respect and love the British MOD and also the British guy. I think for me, we often forget how the world sees UK and British as in like third world country, but they talk about all this racism or the misunderstanding. But I said, what do you know about life? What do you know about life and death situation? When you are in life and death situation, when you are learning about being alive, it doesn't really matter what color, where you come from. I think only being alive and having a great mentor in that time, having people who wants to help you, who wants to support you, and who understand you more than human, being alive. I think those are the thing I learned, and that's why it is very important to choose some team not actually compatible with, not actually okay with, you know. If we are looking for the perfect partner, if we are looking for the perfect job or perfect, whatever situation, there is no such thing exist, There's nothing such thing exists in this world perfect, mind. Either we have to adapt, learn. If you want to go for looking for a perfect partner, perfect job, perfect husband, perfect wife, I think it's time to you to go to the heaven. It's not the place in this earth. Now, I think by what that means is then we understand ourselves to adapt and to learn with that difficult person, with that difficult situation, with that difficult job, because as long as we're alive, and that's why we learn to alive and success, and rather than living for the joyful time, rather than living for the happy time, we make a decision happily every moment. We live the moment joyfully. This is the best thing, and we can only do that when we understand ourselves. And there is, like I say, because if you're looking for the perfect thing, there is no perfect thing as such exists in the world. I think either ourselves we accept And that actually, tell us, and having all these things, but it is important. I think I only here today because I had so much challenges, so much uncomfortable situation in my life. I never have any academic education, not yet. Hardly spoke the English when I came to the UK, and I was struggling to say my name is Krishna, when I actually came to the UK in 1996. Yet again, I think the mentor I have on my way, yet again the comrades, yet again the good, commander, and the teamwork and trust, and challenging me, challenging my boundaries, pushing my boundaries both physically, emotionally, and psychologically. And for that, I think team. I think sometimes a bit of luck, we call luck, I think it is important. But, if we go in deeper meaning, there is no such called luck. But when we go to the superficial wall, we call luck. But also that's either way is okay. But, for me, it's only hard work. And by only hard work and accepting challenge, it is our God. Your God is yourself, and you work hard, you will get wherever you want to get. You challenge yourself, have a confidence. If you don't have a confidence, ask for the help who are mentor, challenge the mentor. I think that's why I think I mentioned on the talk as well. It is very important, us as a living being as well, I think, to look down, and if I can help or support, be a mentor for someone else, we need to try for that as well. At the same time, we need to look for who could be my mentor, who can help me on the physical side, who can help me on emotional side, who can help me all the balance. But you also have that vision thriving and working hard opposite as well. I think if we have this kind of two mentor, not only high up, but also the like someone who we can mentor ourselves to give them guidance, I think that will keep us in a really good balance in a life in so many ways. And yes, and having that gut feeling with yourself. Yes, I accept I'm weak on that. I need someone who is looking for that. And once you find with that person or situation, you hook it and you like die for it.
What makes the likes of Jim Clark and Mark, who you've mentioned there, such great mentors there?
I think humbleness, and the understand the life upside down, not only one side. Those are the people and friends I've been very, fortunate to learn from. And I think if we look in their life, they had they had heart right, by only going through, pushing through their life. And that's where the wisdom word is. This is where the wisdom and faith, because someone has done that, and they will advise us. You don't have to go through struggle. Come on, I'll give you a hand, so you don't have to go all the step. I think this is where the wisdom and mentor does for us. Not only physical, of course, there is always physical mentorship, emotional mentorship, and psychological mentorship. I think we often shadow, like top, like spiritual and understanding ourselves. But I think it is even more important to have that. But that can only be done those person and people who has actually struggled and get themselves out from that situation, so that they can mentor us. And in norm, we often know who they could be. We often know we are not happy in a perspective and sensation world. But when you go to deeper yourself energy, you go and meet them. Oh, this guy, without even knowing. Sometimes you walking past, you don't know nothing about it, but just being in the present, you will see like, oh, this is what I need. We often sigh, we often doubt, we often, have, overconfident. But I think, but that's okay as life. But also it is important to have, like sit down. That's why meditation and sit down every evening before I go bed, that's what I do. What I gone through every day. Like training in the morning, and like what are the dumb decisions I think I made. Sometimes of course, we are human. Sometimes we go with the flow. Sometimes I don't want to turn down my friend. Sometimes I don't want to turn down my relationship, and that's why we kind of go with the flow. But actually, it's not the right decision. It's actually, we know when you start meditating, oh, this is wrong. I think then once you realize that, it's never too late, and you can say, okay, tomorrow I'm not going to do that. The only problem too late is once you realize that, and if you are keep doing the same thing, that's where I think problem comes later, deeper and deeper. I think that's why sometimes we have to be honest and ourselves, and then sometimes we have to and stand up and say, I'm sorry. I think whatever I did last night or last year, last month, I was going through something, in my mind, and I just say, okay, without realizing. And I think if we have that attitude and to accept and to, realize and to, okay, I think by only that we are okay, and we can learn, actually we're moving forward by doing that, I think.
I'm conscious of time here, and there's so much I want to cover as well. But that introspective process is something that obviously is a key takeaway here for me. But also that humbleness in yourself to ask for help. I think sometimes we can all find it hard, and I think particularly in the Western world, and particularly in the business world as well. Some of us can be maybe too arrogant or have too much, let the ego get in the way sometimes to maybe even ask for help at times as well. How does the future look for you then, Krish? Because and again, we've gone deep quickly, and we've stayed there. So apologies, we've maybe not covered a lot of your external achievements, and I will make sure that I've got a long list in front of me of world firsts and everything that you've achieved, and I'll make sure that I'm getting that across to my network and the intro. What's next for you, and what drives you to keep going and achieving these extraordinary things?
I think for me it's service, and service not only for the community and people, but also service for myself. Service for ourselves. We often forget the relationship. We often talk the relationship, our relationship, and something objective or subjective relationship, either business or partner or kids or job, that relationship. But we often forget the relationship between myself and my thought, my thought, myself, and my emotion. I think those are the key understanding of relationship within myself. By only understanding my own emotion, my own health, and my physical relationship, then that allow us to understand what can I push outside, what can I give rest back to the world. I think what that means is now I'm doing a lot more meditation, a lot more understanding myself and my emotion, my thought within me, and how that changing my own, life and success or death. And with that bear in mind, then my whole aim is how can I service, the people who need more than with this experience. And then I appreciate, like the people who give me this opportunity. There's a lot of incident in my life. There's actually, I should have died 3 times in operation. There's 2 people died in front and for me in that, and all the British SAS people giving their life for me, and I'm still alive here. Almost I forget myself. I feel like I'm living someone else's life. It's not my life. I think what that give me is the understanding and value of the other people, other society, and like social, and the love and emotion and service I can give and receive, and within myself, and transcend our limitation of understanding who we are. It's very important. You say that the on the last couple of minutes before when we when when someone else feels sad, we often hard to come out and say and accept and saying that, oh, I feel not so good, because we genetically and biologically evolved as a human creature like that. But I think it is our responsibility as well for the second person to ask, how are you today? Are you okay? Not in a superficial way, in as deeper meaning. Try to connect with your right eyes to their left eyes, because this is where the genetical, biologically, emotion connection made with your right eyes to their left eyes. If you try to look it that way and crossing the, like figure of its pattern of the energy system, and because what that does is they have to open up. I think we often forget in our society how important we play, just you being with them and ask them and how they're feeling and how they lift their whole day. I think what I mean is that it is our responsibility, those communities and people around us, they are okay, and our responsibility to ask them, to be with them, and give them support if they are struggling. I think if we have that mind, I think we have a better future and better community.
And again, I'm conscious of time because I've got about a million other things I'd like to ask, and I'd love the opportunity to ask some more at some point. If we've got a listener today that is potentially, and I know from conversations that there is people out there feeling maybe unfulfilled, that they're not challenging themselves enough, and maybe a little bit lost, and it might be with the business or where they're at in life, or potentially someone who's not in business as well. What advice can you give to them about the importance of challenge and adversity?
Yeah, I think for me it's everyone checkmate, and not only outside. Have a think today for at least for 1 minute. Check your mental health, check your psychological, and check your pride. What are my pride are, what are my confidence are, what are the reason I'm here, and what are the reason I am keeping myself busy. Just check, 3 points before. Maybe it takes some time, 3 days, or 3 minutes, 1 minute, and check your pride, and check your reason you are working hard, giving so much hard, and check your mental health. I think we often forget this one, and by only checking, but actually, is in the perspective wall, we're saying like, oh, check what is my pride, what is my driven factor. But what we doing internally is we asking the question ourselves, we asking the question my own self. By only asking the own self, no one can does that for you. Then if it is not truth for you, if you ask the question, that if it is not truth and if it is not meant to be for you, that thought process will start collapsing. Then only when something is really, really true for you, that mission, that pride, that love, that emotion will flourish. I think that's probably the one thing I do. Maybe 1 minute or 2 minutes. If you listen this one, check whatever you're going through and sit down. And the second thing I really wanted to pass is that there is the actually research done from the universities, the how they did the research on going through all the specialists, like people who are successful, so-called achievement in their life, and became specialist, or became SF mindset. And the research is they found is the only one word is adaptation, or dealing with uncertainty. I think if you can deal any situation and if you can adapt any situation, those are the people who can success in their life so many ways. They might fail, but again stand up. They might run. If they can't run, you walk. If you can't walk, you crawl. If you can't crawl, you roll. If you can't even roll, still go through the thought process. This is what is the dealing with the self and uncertainty and adopt. Situation change, you adopt, you roll. Situation change, adopt, you crawl. I think with that mindset, not many people can adopt and roll. But again, that's why the example I gave is if you can't run, you walk. If you can't walk, you crawl. If you can't crawl, you roll. If you can't even roll, you just go through your mind. Go through your mind. I still can do this one. I think with that attitude, with that mindset, and there is no failure. Basically, there is no giving up. I think you need to have that. So I think those are the two key lessons. If anyone can listen and adopt, and that will be, I'm sure we will have a different outcome in few months' time.
A great way to end things in terms of your final message there, Krish. I think this is one of the most thought-provoking conversations that I've ever had. So I, for one, am massively grateful for that and very honoured to share this time with you. And I hope there's some value here for other people listening as well. So just massively thankful, mate. Thanks for spending the time. And I'd love to find out a way of being able to spend some more time with you, hopefully in the future as well. So absolute legend.